All right, welcome back. We are WEBD6201 in the winter 2022 semester at Durham, and it's week 6, part 2 of our broadcast and session together. And this week we have a very busy week. Sorry for starting late, but we had some minor things. A couple things to note. Let's go into this one. Some things we did this week. We talked about Intro to AJAX, what that's all about. We talked about the asynchronous nature of AJAX, that it does what it wants and when it wants. That's one thing we talked about. And a couple things to note is ICE 6 is moved to Saturday this week because I just put the lab report up now, and just in case that's too late for you for tonight, it'll give you a chance to submit tomorrow. Okay, so that's what it is. Test 2, for people who haven't done that, please don't forget to do it. It's 7.5% of your final grade. I'll mention this again at the end of the day today. Lab 2 due next Sunday. Again, you need to sign up with your partner. Hopefully you've done that already. If you haven't, please do so immediately, right? So that way you don't miss that up. All right, so that's what's happening right now. And let's get back to our code. So where last we left off, we were here in ICE 6. And I'm just going to run light server here so we can see what that looks like. And we're here. Right here's light server, and we have all these pages being injected, as that's what we should be. It should be all injected. Let's see if that's true. So I'm going into here, and let's take a look at all of our pages. So the About page, header, contact list page, header, contact page, header, and so on. They're all just injected. And this is good, but we're going to see that it's also a bit of a limitation in some ways as well. Okay, just keep that in mind as we continue with this stuff. So what do I want to do today? I want to produce, here's what I want to do, full login, logout functionality with authorization guard, so I can't get to my contact list page unless I'm logged in. Right? Okay, let's do it. Okay, here we go. So the first thing is, how do I do it? I need a user class. All right, that's the first thing I need. Some way of keeping track of users on my site. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go here. I'm going to add in a new file, which is going to be called user.js. Let's do that together. User.js is very much like contact.js. Okay, now your contact had full name and contact number and all this stuff. What I'm going to do with the user is I'm going to shorten it. I'm not going to do getters and setters today just to save time, but you would, in the real world, include them, right? That's the reason why. We also want to put this inside of an IFI, which is going to pass in the core functionality. Remember this core IFI thing? And this IFI is really your namespace. What did I do wrong? No need of these. So this is your namespace. So in your namespace, we want this IFI. And at the bottom of the IFI, we always see something that looks like this. I want to pass in either a valid core namespace, or I want you to create a core, make core equal to an empty object. We have this. And then we're going to have our user class. Okay. I don't know why it does that. Did that every single time today. And then at the bottom, just before we stop our user class, we want to expose that class to the rest of the world. And the way to do this is to add it to the core namespace. So core.user is equal to user. And when people look at that, they're like, well, I don't get it. There is no user property of core. Remember, rule number 1 for jQuery or JavaScript, when you add it, you create it. When you assign it, you create it. Okay. So then we need some stuff here. We need a constructor function. We need some overridden methods. And you also need some utility methods that we're going to use today. So what does that look like? I'm going to, in the constructor function, start thinking about the stuff that I need, right? For a user, I need some kind of display name that I want to display on the nav bar. I need some kind of email address to identify the user beyond the display name. and the username. Maybe other profile information as well. I need a username. And I need a password. Okay, all these things are going to be starting off as strings for now. And we're going to say this dot display name, capital D, is equal to display name. This dot email address is equal to email address. And this dot username is equal to username. This dot password is equal to password. Okay, so those are those things I need to make a user. I need display name, email address, username, and password, right? Some things to note about the password is we're gonna be always able to read the password when like input the password to the user, but the user will never output the password ever, because the password is secret. The overridden methods, we're going to use a toString method, just like before. And the toString method is going to return a template string that's going to have display name, and it's going to show this dot display name, as well as the email address. Oh, wow. Typing when standing, which is this dot email address, and then finally your username. Capital U. Oh, there you go. All right, so that is the toString method. Now, utility methods. So there's a couple of new ones, and some methods we've seen before. So one of the new ones is toJSON. We've never done that before, but remember what JSON is, right? It's JavaScript object notation and needs a special format, key value pairs. But what if I was to take an object like a contact or a user and output it to a JSON file? How do I do that? I would have to have a display name property followed by this dot display name, and we would also need a email address property, this dot email address, okay, followed by a username lowercase property followed by this dot username. All right, so that's what it would look like. How are you guys with, can you see this? Should I turn the lights off? How are we doing?
Can you see it fine? Better?
I keep forgetting to do that. So that is from JSON. What about toJSON? Sometimes I also want to get, so that's toJSON. How about from JSON? Because I have a JSON file and I want to read it in, right? And I want to read parts of it into user objects, right? And that's how we're going to store our mock data in a JSON file, right? So to do that, we need a function for that. So let's create one from JSON. We're going to have some kind of data. And this is going to be looking very similar to what we've seen before, where we say this dot display name is equal to data dot display name, and then this dot email address is equal to data dot email address, and this dot username is equal to data dot username. There's some assumptions that are made here, and the assumption is that the data is exactly formatted in the right way. That's a big assumption. We may fix it later. Okay, so that's from JSON. So from JSON, what it does is, if I pass a piece of data into the object or the class, it can create all the properties from a JSON object. That's what it does. Okay. We also need serialize and deserialize, which we're going to steal from a contact class. Let's do that. So in the contact class, we're going to go in here, and we're going to grab serialize and deserialize, and we're going to modify them to save time. And serialize is, instead of this dot full name, it's going to be this dot display name, and this dot contact number is going to change to this dot email address, and this dot email address is going to be changed to this dot username. Those are things that are required for you to do stuff. And then we're going to return display name, email address, and username in a comma separated string. That's going to be put inside of session storage today, not local storage. Whole new thing. And we're going to say one or more properties of the user object are missing or invalid. Okay? Deserialize, instead of full name, it's going to be display name. Instead of contact number, it's going to be email address. And instead of email address, it's going to be username. Username. And everything else is the same. Okay? So it's the same thing. Right? We need serialize and deserialization because we want to be able to use session storage to store our user temporarily when we're logged in. Okay? Okay, so that is our user class. It's pretty much what we had before. The only thing that's missing that I would put in if I had more time would be getters and setters. That's the only thing that's missing. And I'll put that there. So missing getters and setters. So to do, missing getters and setters. Notice that my to-do lights up. Okay? It's an extension. All right, so this is pretty cool. I've got my user class. Let's put this up on GitHub. This is part of your ICE for today. Git add dot git commit -m. I'll say added user class. Git push. All right, so user class has been added, right? Everything is golden in this world. Next, now that we have our user class, thank you very much, what I want is some mock data, which I'm going to put inside of a data folder. And inside the data folder, I'm going to have a file that's users.json. How does that look? It looks like this. We must have curly braces for users.json. Okay, that's important to do. And also, inside of users.json, we must have some other kinds of data, right? So how does that work? Well, remember what we did last time. We have to have some kind of key value pairs. So we're going to have a users property. It's going to be of an array type, and it's going to be an array of objects. What object are we going to have? The user object, which is going to include display name, which is, we're going to add one, John Smith. That's the display name. We're going to have an email address, which is going to be john.smith@example.com. We're going to have a username. Make sure everything is spelled properly, guys. This is important, which is John Smith. And finally, a password. We are going to store password because we need to verify that the person is logging in. All of our passwords are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 today. I know it's really strong, but it's easy to type in and fast for us to test, right? And later on we can do whatever you want. I want to make 3 of these. So this one, another one, and another one. The second one is going to be May Smith, his sister. I don't know where I got the Smiths from. Even Tom Smith exists once in a while. And then, finally, at the bottom, we're going to make this the admin user. And admin@example.com. Finally, by the username is admin, password the same. Okay? Mock data. It's required. Site structure for your lab report. Put this up on GitHub. Oh. Okay. We have our user. We have our users.json. We have some mock data we can test with. Now we need to fix our login page. Let's fix the login page. The login page has some Tom errors, okay? That's me copy pasting and having problems, errors, all right, in my gist. And we can do that by going to the login page and picking these errors up together. One thing to note, we want to modify at the same time. So in our login page, we want some kind of message area, right? So it's going to be a div tag with a class, an ID of message area. We need that. Put that right underneath your login H1 tag. We also need to fix this problem. This is a problem. Contact name and username. That's wrong. So this should be username, lowercase, and this should also be username, lowercase. 2 errors. Oh boy, that was bad. That's a copy paste and a I don't know what I was thinking error. You know, one of those. At the bottom, let's modify our button so it's not like this. It's not a submit button, but rather it's something else. And let's make it so that the submit button is going to show like some nice stuff to make us feel like we're going to log in. Okay, so it wouldn't be a submit button. It's going to be a login button. And the type is going to be a button, not submit, so we'll never submit the form. It's going to be a button, button primary, button large, but it's also going to have an I tag with the class of FAS, FA-sign in alt. Okay, sign in alt. And I'm going to put this on the second line so you guys can see it. Like so. We want a cancel button. Let's copy this button here. I'll make a cancel button. We have examples of this, but it's just we're here and we have to make some changes anyway. So this will be called the cancel button. It's going to be button dash warning, button dash large, FAS, and then FA undo, and then it'll be called cancel. So that's the login page. Login page is looking better. It's looking like there's no errors. Let's check it out and see what it looks like. So we're going to go here and then go to our login page and see what it looks like. Okay, better, right? But it'd be nice if these things were properly fixed. That broke, our CSS broke our other stuff. We want to fix that problem. Let's go into CSS and fix that. So that's in the CSS page, content, app.css. On line 27, wipe out the width is 100%. Save. And now it looks like this again. And it also fixed our contact page and also fixed our edit page. Because I changed the input group class where I said width is equal to 100% and it messed things up. We don't want width 100% for the input group. We want it to be next to that little gray area for the label. And that's what it was a problem. All right, so that is all the fixes for the page. But wouldn't it be nice if we had these buttons in our login page? If I go back to login, right? If I go back there, logig is good. Logig is awesome. Login.html. If I go there, wouldn't it be nice if we had these buttons over here and if there was separation between those fields? Again, issues, right? So for separation, let's do the separation first. At the top of the form group, we'll say margin bottom 2. And the same thing goes here for this form group, margin bottom 2. And if we press save, we'll go back and check it. Now there's separation. And I wouldn't mind if the buttons were to the right. And it used to be text right. That's the old Bootstrap, but now it's text end. right? So buttons are to the right. So these are simple fixes, and actually it's good that we had these problems, because now you saw how flexible things are. It's not that bad, right? Let's put this up on GitHub, because we fixed, this is another part of your in-class exercise that says fix the login page. It actually is in there, all right? So you're getting marks for this, for my errors, okay? There you go. So let's do that. If I make a problem, you're gonna get a bonus for that. Okay, so git add dot, git commit -m, fixed login page, git push. Done. That part's done. Okay, so now we have our login page. We can actually start doing the code. Let's code, finally. That was all prep. All right, so how do we code? Well, we're going to do it inside of our app.js. So again, inside of our scripts, our app.js. We've been fooling around with users, and we fooled around with all this other stuff, but now we need to fix our script so we can log in. And we want to do it right at the bottom where we kind of had that those two stubs for login and register. That's where we want to do it. And in those stubs, I want to think about how I'm going to do the login. So, well, first things first, I want to get a reference to the message area. So let message area is equal to, hey jQuery, give me a reference to the message area, please. And what I want to do is I want to say message area dot hide. Okay. Okay. Here's something I'm going to tell you ahead of time. I'm going to put an error in this thing on purpose. Your challenge, after I tell you the error is in there, is to find the error, right? When I tell you to do so, you have 5 minutes to find the error. No one's been able to do it so far. I'm just going to tell you that's kind of happening. I'm going to put the error in here, okay? I'm not going to tell you where I'm going to put it or when. I'm just going to do it. Okay, let's see if you can detect it before I do it. All right, so here we go. I'm going to start with, hey, jQuery. I want to get the login button, and I want to, on click, I want to do something. Okay, so I'm trying to log in, basically. I need to set up some criteria. Let's say our success to log in and log out is by default false. We're also going to create an empty user object to hold our new user that we're going to log in with, new user. That's going to be equal to new core.user. However, we know that we can't use the user class unless we include it inside of the user inside of our page for login. Otherwise, it will never work, right? Because our login page, right, inside over here, our login page is our manifest for all of our JavaScripts, right, for this particular thing. We have a namespace.js, but we have a contact. We don't need the contact. We need a user.js here. This is all good. Okay, so namespace, we need the namespace, we need the user. Otherwise, we can't do new core user. It's not possible. Okay? Next, we're going to use jQuery, a jQuery shortcut to load the users.json file. Okay, here we go. .get /data/users.json. And we want to pass in the data that we just got from the JSON file into this function. And we want to, for every user in the users .json file loop. So we're going to do a for of. And we're going to say that it's going to be for every user of the file, which is the data.users. And let me explain that. So why data.users? When I go to the JSON file and I load it up, I get the entire file, including the curly braces. So what this means is, right, I'm going to go here. No tricks yet, okay? I'm going to go here and inside my data, I've got my users.json. I got all this, the curly braces from the beginning all the way to the bottom. That's the data file. That is called data when I load it up, right? Users is an array of user objects, right? So if I say data.users, data is just a friendly name that we're giving the JSON file that we've input, okay? That's our local identifier for the JSON file. That's what it is, or a variable that we're using. We could call this anything we want. We can call it JSON file if we really wanted to, right? It's like JSON file.users. I want to get the users array from the JSON file. That's what this is, okay? So we're calling it data. Don't worry about it. It's not important. We're going to check if the username and the password entered matches the user data that we're going to get in. Okay, so we're going to say if username dot value is equal to user dot username and the password dot value is equal to user dot password. If that's true, we're going to get the user data from the file and assign it to our empty user object, okay? Which looks like this. New user is dot from JSON, right? Remember that from JSON? Passing in the user that we have. We're going to say at that point that success is true, and we're going to break. We're going to break out of this loop because we found the user. We found the user. We don't want to keep looking. Let's get out of here, right? So this does. Okay, that's part one. And then now that we have success, we've got success, right? And what I want to do is I want to say if, actually let's say this, we'll say if username and password matches, then we have success, right? And then we will immediately perform the login sequence. Okay, so if success, then we're going to add our user to session storage, right? Which is session storage. It looks exactly the same. The syntax for session storage and local storage, identical. All right. So session storage dot set item. It's going to be called user, and we're going to say the new user dot serialize. Because we're going to serialize the data that we're going to store in session storage in comma separated format, like we've done before for our contact list. Nothing different there. Okay? Nice and easy. We're going to hide any error message. We got now message area dot remove attribute. We're going to remove the class from it because we don't want to see that message, the problem, right? And we're going to hide it. And then I'm going to redirect, right, the user to the secure area of the site, okay, which is our contact list.html. And we're going to do that by using a location.href, which is equal to contact-list.html. Okay? How about if we don't have success? Then we're going to say else, and we're going to say we're going to display an error message, right? Like we normally do, which is going to say, hey, let's get our username object, right? Which from the form. That's the username for the form. I need to get an access to that. I want to trigger an event that's the focus event. And I want to trigger an event that is the select event. We've done this before in our validation steps, right? And then we're going to say message area dot add class alert and alert dash danger, the red box that's going to come up. And then we're going to say some text that's going to say error, right? Invalid login credentials. Okay, and we're going to show that box. Why invalid login credentials and not invalid username, invalid password? It's not secure to do that. If you ever see a site that does that, says, you've entered your login, your username wrong. Well, that's great. Thank you for that. I'm going to hammer it until I get my proper username now. Right? Wait, you told me my password's wrong, but my username's okay? That's awesome. I'm going to hammer your password as much as I can until I find the password with some kind of attack. Right? Never, ever tell the user what the problem is. Just say it's invalid credentials. They don't need to know. It's going to double or triple or make it almost impossible for them to figure it out. 12 character passwords or more are recommended. 12, not 10, right? And going on 14 and 20, all right, right now, as in terms of security-wise. And eventually, that's not even going to be enough with quantum computing, because quantum computers will be able to decipher the password instantly. It won't matter. Okay, let's move on. But for now, 12 characters is where you want to aim for. All right, so display an error message, and this is good, right? And then after all this, after that's just the login button, let's do the cancel button, right? So there's the cancel button. We're going to say on click. Trying my best not to make any finger typing errors. And we're going to say, let's do some stuff. Let's talk about some stuff. What about if I wanted to clear the form, the login form, manually? How do I do that? I can do that by going document.forms, and I can have the first form that I find I want to reset. That's a quick way of resetting a form, any form. But we don't need that really. I'm just putting that in there for you for documentation, for your knowledge, because we're going to return to the home page. So we're not going to do much there. Okay. Let's try it out and see if it works. It look right to you? It's not right. But I want to talk about why it's not right. And let's log in and let's try something that's valid. Admin, try yourself. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's pull up our Control-Shift-J to make sure there's no other errors, because I might have typed something incorrectly. Press login and you'll see this. I typed in the username and password correctly, but it's not logging me in. Okay, guys, now is your challenge. You have 5 minutes, no more, no less, right? Tell me what the problem is. There is a problem. I did it on purpose. It's not an error. Yes? Sorry?
No. I just realized I'm not going to do that.
Nope.
Because it gets added to session right after a while.
It's also for the people online. It's not just for the people here. So let's see if you can figure it out. I wish I had a bounty. I used to have bounties that I used to do with the class. I used to roll 20-sided dice and said, okay, here's how much bounty you get. Points I'm talking about for marks for your final grade. But we'll have a bonus already in this lab anyway. I already included a bonus in the in-class exercise. Come on, guys, think. Yeah, go ahead. Absolutely. Don't just look at it. Debug it. Yes.
Is there a difference between like triple equals and double equals?
Nope. It's not a common error. It's not a syntax error that you're going to see. It's nothing that I've done to fool you that's a syntax error. So if you think it's a syntax error or typing error or something like that, it's not that. I can warn you away from that already. And it's something that I've said over and over again to you guys all the time. And if you were coding this, you would run into the same trouble, which is what's going to happen in lab 2, lab 3, something like that. It's going to come to you. right? And you're going to go, I don't know why, but it's not working. Okay, let me help you. Let's do some stuff together. Let's do it together to see what it is. So the first thing you'd probably do is do something like this, right? You'd probably go, am I getting data? That's the first thing I check, right? Let's see if I'm getting data. So I'm going to say, okay, if I'm getting data, let's do a console log. Console log data. And if I start typing T and da-da, then I get data. Look, here's my data. Data's coming. So that's right from the file, AJAX, right? It's coming. All right, so let's go back. I got data. And let's go over here. Well, what about my user? Can I parse my user? Let's go in here and can I do a console log? Right? And can I look at the user object? Well, I got data, so theoretically I should be able to look at the user. And there it is. There's my user object, each user object. Okay, cool. I've parsed through them. I went through the for loop. Okay, that's not it. And let's see, what else you'd probably check. You'd probably check something like, how about success? Did I get to this part? Did I make, is it successful somehow? Did this conditional statement fail? Because you guys are probably checking that too. You're probably saying, it's probably something with the double equals or the triple equals or the conditional statement. It's not that. Because if I can get here, then the conditional works, right? Conditional. Right? Conditional passed. Let's see if that comes up. Now, for that to pass, I need to put in the my proper stuff. Okay, so, all right. That's a big error that I didn't expect. Console is not a function. Okay. That's just me doing console. That's me. That's my bad. Let's try that again. Conditional passed. It worked. I was able to, it matched username and passwords, but I'm still getting this error. Okay. Who's ready to give up? By the way, for some people, I could give you 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 10 hours, infinite time. And you may not figure it out in your head. Right? And it's not to do with you. You're not dumb people. You're smart people. You're programmers. You've been doing this for a while. But you don't know JavaScript. What did I keep telling you about JavaScript? The number one thing I tell you about JavaScript the very first moment I met you. It's asynchronous. And you know what? You can never depend on AJAX. And what we're doing here, this is the answer, right? Because you're not figuring it out. This is the answer, all right? It's right here for you. It's right in your face, right? We're trying to use an AJAX call here, right? Here's your AJAX call. And we're expecting that we've got success. Did we get success? Here's what really happens. We're saying, hey, load AJAX. It's loaded. Fine. Now do success. What's success? False. That means it's always going to be false because we didn't load it yet. We didn't wait for this thing to load. And because we didn't wait for this thing to load, we expected that it did because we expect the execution order to follow the exact order that we programmed, just like we do in C++ and in C# and in Java. And JavaScript is asynchronous. You will never find this error. You'll look at this over and over again and go, but it should work. It works in Java. It works in Java. It works in C#. It works in C++, but not in JavaScript. What the hell's wrong with me? Am I right? Because AJAX is a beast, right? Replace beast with another word, right? When it comes to wrangling it and trying to understand how it works, guys. And I want you to think about this. I want you to take this lesson because one day you and your partner are going to sit down and go, I don't know why it doesn't work. It should work. It looks flow. Look, it flows. In your mind, you're like, remember what Tom said about AJAX being a beast? Yeah, that. Is it in the wrong spot? We're gonna see this again today. I'm gonna still get you with this again today, another time. It's coming. All right? You're gonna be like, hey, it doesn't work. Why not? Okay, let's see. And you won't even know. How do I fix this problem? I want to take this entire block of code here, right? Cut it. And I'm gonna put this inside of here, inside of this part right here, right? So we're waiting for this to load, right? The code was incorrect. It wasn't incorrect. It was fine, actually, right? But we made some assumptions about the code that was incorrect. It was not a syntax error. It was a thinking error. It was a systematic error in our head. It's a different kind of error. You could have done things like done breakpoints and all that kind of stuff as much as possible. Where it could have led you, if you checked to see what success was at any point. And if you saw success as false, but meanwhile you got to the conditional, then in your mind you should say, I don't understand. Why am I getting success false, but meanwhile I was in the conditional that set success to true? And then sometimes in the console you might see this. Success, conditional passed, right? After success is false. That's what you'll see. What does that mean? I'm getting success false, I'm checking for success, and then it's passing. That's the asynchronous nature of AJAX in JavaScript, okay? So we're gonna get to that. It's not gonna be the last time this semester, guaranteed. And it's gonna mess me up too, I guarantee you, right? It's gonna happen. Let's test this thing and see, I'm not joking, and see if it's working now. So we'll say admin, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and press login, and ta-da, we're good, right? And let's check to see what it does. So remember we said session storage instead of local storage. If I type in session storage is like local storage. It's exactly like local storage, except it's supposed to be used for short sessions. Local storage is supposed to be used for shopping cart, to understand some stuff that you did. So when you come back, it's convenient for you so that it remembers what you put in there. Session storage is short storage for logging in and logging out to hold user data and sensitive stuff. You should make it expire, all right? And you can do that because you can set up a time frame for how long it lasts. And you can make it expire after a few seconds, a minute, an hour, a week, a month, whatever you want, okay? Session storage. So what we're going to do is we've logged in, and if I look at Control-Shift-J, and if I look at my application, you can clearly see that we have in our session storage our user object that has these values. This is what we did. Let's delete it because this is like us logging out. Okay, let's do that. We deleted that object. Nice. And let's put this up on GitHub. So we said git add dot git commit -m. We'll say added login functionality. Don't feel bad about the little challenge if you do, because everyone fails. It's because we are coming from a structured language. You guys are all structured thinkers. And you're like, wait, the execution order. We've been taught from our first professor that things follow an execution order. Yes, it does, except for JavaScript. Well, actually, there's other things that do the same thing. If you do any kind of game development, it's the same. Game development does not always follow an execution order because we want to do things in parallel. Parallel processing is also when things don't follow an execution order. They're just doing things at the same time. They're switching between different tasks, right? So be careful about that too. Concurrency. All right, so that's this part, okay? And now let's do the log out. How do we do a log out? Well, okay, we logged in, but there's no way of knowing that we're logged in, right? So what I want to do now is I want to check my login state, right? And the way to do that is we're going to make another little function. We're going to call this check login. And the check login function is going to look like this. If the user is logged in, then if session storage, right, dot get item user. Does that make sense? It says that, can I get a user item, a user key from session storage, yes or no? If I do, then someone's logged in. And if the user's logged in, that means they've passed through the security checkpoint, going through the login screen, right? And we've checked them with our mock data for now. Some people said earlier that, what if we just turn off JavaScript and none of these checks would matter, right? Well, if you turn off JavaScript, none of it will work, right? So that's kind of moot. But in the future, what we want to do is always check on the front and the back. Okay, we can never just rely on the front end to save us. We have to check the back end as well. Okay, so let's go to the next step. So now that we know the user's there, we want to swap out the login link, right, for logout. We want to toggle login, logout, right? And the way to do that is we need to use jQuery or some other mechanism to connect to it. In the header.html page, you can see that we have no login page. Let's put the login page in there, first of all. So let's do that. So we can detect login. And we'll just copy one of the list items, and we'll call this login.html. There we go. And it won't be FAS FA volume envelope. It'll be FAS FA sign in alt, right? And it'll say login. And what we want to do here is we want to be able to have access, right? We want to access this page. And I want to be able to swap out this whole anchor tag with a new one. Okay, now there's many ways to do this, okay? This is just one way. But here's the challenge to you, okay? Without changing anything, and just putting it this way, is there a way that I can target my list item that contains that anchor tag, right? And then swap out the anchor tag for a new one. It's challenging, right? You can do it, but it's requiring a challenge. One thing we can do for now, because we don't have time today, is we can just add an ID, right? And the ID is going to be login, okay? So what we can do, going back to the code, after we've added this in, let's just save this for now. And let's just look at the page. Now look, we have a login link now, right? That's what the login looks like. So it'll take us to the login page and we can log in, right? Which is pretty cool, okay? So that's what the login page will do, right? It even lights up because our code is flexible enough to detect that the login link is the same name as the login page. That's how we do it, right? For now. Okay, good. So now that we know that, how do I swap out that link? Well, we have an ID. We just put an ID there, right? So I can say something like, hey, jQuery, let's use an ID that is login. And what I want to do is I want to change the inner HTML of that. I want to change the inner HTML. Sorry, let's make sure I put the bracket in the right place. And I want to use a template string for that. So why don't we just take the templates, the thing we already have from our header.html, this piece right here, and modify it. So take that piece, copy it, go back to your app and put it in there and paste it. And let's add some stuff to it. So first, when we start off, let's add an ID to this thing too, to the anchor tag that we inject. So we're swapping an anchor tag with an ID of logout. And what we're going to say is there is no link. The href is actually going to be a hashtag. And what we're going to say is FAS FA sign out alt. And we're going to change this to logout. Okay, there's logout. Does that make sense? So I'm swapping out that entire anchor tag. I'm saying, okay, if I'm logged in, swap that entire anchor tag out and just show me logout. So I'm logged in, log out. Okay, but I got to deal with logging out. How do I log out? So, well, now that I have an ID, right? Then let's target it. We can say that inside of here, right, which is important, we're going to say, hey, I want an ID of logout. When I click onto it, then I want to do the following things. I want to perform logout. And I'm going to say, hey, session storage dot clear. That's how we can do it. We clear everything in the session, right? And this is okay because typically if we're going to store stuff in the session storage when we're logged in, anything else, like any other states, or whatever, we would temporarily hold them there. When we're logged out, we don't care. So we can get rid of all that, clear that up, okay? And then we can redirect ourselves, redirect back to login page, right? Which is location.href equals to login.html. Ah. Nice. That's my check login function. Okay. Where do I put it? Where do I put it? I want you guys to tell me. I want to check to see if I'm logged in all the time. In the header. Where? Where? Start function. Okay, let's go to start function. All right, I'll go with that one first. Start function, where do I put it? First of all, we should probably put this AJAX request up higher up, shouldn't we? Here's another question for you. Will it matter? Why? It's going to do it whenever the hell it wants. That's the reason. So if we expect to put our check login here, my friends, right? Guess what? We don't even have a nav bar yet when we're checking login already. It's going to execute instantly. Remember that beast we were talking about? It's back. It's right here. AJAX, our AJAX request is saying, hey, remember every time I even put AJAX in the name of the function, okay, for you guys to know this. I should just put AJAX the beast request, right? So you know that it's not going to answer you. It's not going to go in order here, right? AJAX is going to go here. It's going to start doing stuff, and then you're going to automatically go to check login, and check login is going to fail, even if you're logged in. Why? There isn't even a nav bar yet, and we're checking, right? Yes?
Is there like a call stack we can use to make sure that we only call function once and everything else is promoted?
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Like, you know, like the modeling of your website when you use it.
No. You're talking about execution order. No. But what we can do is we can think about what is going to make it more in order. I also have some things like, can't you just make everything wait? Well, no, we can't make things wait, guys. No one likes to wait, right? So that's not a good solution. Well, where we can put it is in here, right? So we load the header. Now this is going to work properly in order because load header is going to be the callback function that is going to be passed into the AJAX request. So therefore, it's going to be completed, the AJAX request already. And that's how we're able to load header in the first place, right? Because the AJAX request is passing data in here, right? And we're saying that, okay, we can, mark the object in the header active, right? So this is a good place to put it, in the load header function. And we can put that in there here. So check login. And let's make sure this is string, because that's what it is. All right? Does that make sense? Because AJAX is already loaded the header, and that's why this works. So that if we don't have to wait, we know it's loaded. We know the data is there, okay? And we don't know the data is down here, okay? There's no way that we know down here. Okay, so if that's true, because look, load header is being called by the AJAX request. The AJAX request, we're passing the load header callback function to the AJAX request. The load header the load header function, right, is then triggering after the AJAX request is finished firing and loading stuff in, and then we check login. That's okay, right? And then if I did this, and we back to this, then we're logged in. Let's go log in with our admin. Press login, and you should get log out. See that? Log out. And if I click log out, let's look at this, Control-Shift-J, and let's look at our application state. We can see that we have a user, but if I press log out, the user's gone, right? And now we're logged out again, and we redirected back to login. Log out functionality, guys. Right? That's number part 2. Let's go into that and put that up on GitHub. Okay, last thing today. And this one is a thinking one as well, right? A lot of thinking ones today. I want to protect my contact list page. I never want the page to be shown, not any part of it, ever, right? If someone's not logged in. Okay, that's what I want. Not any part of it ever can be shown if someone's not logged in. Okay, so proposals. What do you think? Yes?
After we do login, only if that person's going to inject the links to the background.
Okay, let's call this function. I like your check login. We can do it here if you want, right? But let's do it. Let's make a function for that. And we'll make it way down here again next to check login, just because we're close enough. And we'll make this function called, we'll call it AuthGuard. The AuthGuard function. And the AuthGuard function is something that we want to use, right? And it's going to look like this. So I want to go with what you said. Check if user is logged in, which we can do by saying if not session storage dot get item user. So if the user doesn't exist, that's what we're saying. Then redirect to login page. Right? Okay. I like it. Location. Nice and simple. .href is equal to login.html. Okay, tell me where to put that. Now, come on, Zoe, you're rolling. Right? Where am I going to put the AuthGuard? AuthGuard stands for Authorization Guard. It's a very common function we use on the back end, on the front end. And usually we use something called guards in general to guard pages.
So this is in case the user can access something and they're not logged in?
They're accessing the contact list in this case. Let's just protect that page. I want to protect the contact list page so only authorized users can see the contact list. It's my contact list. I don't want you to see it. I only want you to see it if you're logged in.
So on the method that we load the contact list,
Okay, sure. All right. So the contact list, the display contact list, is that where you want to put it?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. And here it is. Should I put it here?
Well, we want to prevent any contact errors, right?
Yeah. So
I guess we just put it at the top, I'm not sure.
right here, right? 'Cause it's going to redirect. Isn't it? We're going to redirect right to login right here. Why not?
Doesn't say synchronous. It just
Damn
says
it! You caught me, right? Due to the asynchronous nature of JavaScript, I'm going to see this again and again. Due to the asynchronous nature of JavaScript, you cannot guarantee when the location is going to switch. You cannot guarantee. Let's try it. Let me show you what it does, right? So I like your thinking, AuthGuard. And you put it here, and you should redirect. It says href. It's going to href to another page, right? To login. So it should stop any of this stuff from happening. You should break out of this goddamn function, correct? It will break out of this function and then come back. Won't it? It's going to href out, but there's all this other pieces over here. It's going to say, wait, I have to do this work over here, right? Yeah.
Okay, this might be dumb, but we have a switch statement before we
I'll try that there too. No problem. I'll put that there too. Let me just do this first.
Well, what if we have an argument to AuthGuard for like what we're going to, and then in the switch statement, rather than going to the contact list, we call AuthGuard with that argument?
Okay, hold on. I like your thinking. Let me show you this first. All right, so this is a challenge, right? This is a challenge. So let's go back there and try it out. So, okay, we're not logged in. I go to my contact us page. I click this show contact list, and I saw everything. Everything, man. Right? I saw like underwear here, okay? I saw everything, all right? There was nothing going on. You couldn't hide anything from me, all right? I'm sorry to say it that way. But that's how it is. And look, we put that in there. Href, go to the other thing, and then we put it in anyway. Okay, Zoe, I'm going to go with your idea. Let's see if it works. So let's take this AuthGuard function. And by the way, we can fool around with this AuthGuard function all day, and it may not do what you want it to do, guys. Okay, let's not waste time. It doesn't belong here, is the answer. It doesn't belong here. No matter what we do, the way we set up our file right here, this long file with almost 500 lines of code, I would say, right? It doesn't matter whether you put it here, here, inside the AJAX request, it doesn't matter. You can even make it an if-else. It won't matter. How's that possible? If-else, and it won't matter. Shouldn't the else not trigger? Let me show you. Let's go there, let's do this, right? So here's our contact list page. We'll say the only place that I want to do it is if I have that code, right? So in other words, let's split screen for a second. And let's get to that auth guard, right, function, which is right here. And I'm not even going to use this function. Let's just do this. Right here, like you kind of said, right? Put that right in there, right? And I will do an else, right? Else. 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 Okay, that means that we can never get here, right? We can't get to the display contact list alone. This is the only way we can display the contact list, right? Isn't this true? Shouldn't this work in C++ and in C# and in Java? I'm going to show you that this is a misconception, that if I go to my contact list page and show contact, we still show that goddamn page. We don't show the contacts, but we show the page. How's that possible? No, because the page is going to load. We're redirecting to that page. The way this works is app.js is loaded after the page is loaded, right? We're always going to see that page for now and for forever. We can't put it here. We need to put it in its own file. Let's do it. New learnings, new learnings. All right, so this is not a trick, I swear. This is just that I want you guys to think about, right, certain things and how they belong, how they load. Because this is going to help you with security. It's going to help you with the second part of the semester. All right? So, this auth guard, nice idea, Tom, but no good. Let's get rid of it. Cut. We need a separate file called auth guard. Let's do it. So in here, in our scripts, let's make a file called auth guard. And in auth guard, I want to copy paste that. And what I want to do is fix this. So it's not a function, but rather it is a iffy. Okay. And let's also, at the top, let's have use strict just for good measure. Okay, now that I've got my authguard.js, I don't want to wait for my app.js to load. That's how we've been doing it this entire time, right? Remember, we've been doing baby JavaScript until now, right? Now we're starting to graduate into something more decent, somehow. So on the top of my contact list page, take a look. I'm waiting for all this to load. That's why part of it loads. This part loads regardless. It's going to go to the contact page, guys, right? No matter what you do, it's going to go there. You can't do anything. It's going to go there, right? And at the bottom of the page, we have our namespace and contact and app.js. We go to here before we stop it, right? We don't want to wait to go to here. We never want to come to here, ever. We want to catch it in here, in the head. So we can put JavaScript in the head too. And we normally don't. Some people do. They love putting JavaScript in the head, right? Because what happens is in the head, it happens before the page loads, before anything loads, before one single piece of content loads. And this is okay for us. Right? So we're going to load /scripts and then /authguard. So authguard is only going to be in that page, it's a one-liner, and it's only going to be in the pages you want to protect for now. In the future, when we do it, we're going to do it in two places, on the front end and on the back end. And the back end will protect it, so when you actually go to that link, you type in your link and go there, it's going to intercept that whole link and not even going to go there at all. All right? So let's see how this works. It's authguard. So again, I'm going to go back to this. And I want to go to my contact page, and I show my contact list, and nope. Perfect. That's exactly what we wanted, right? Look, take a look again. Contact us, and then boom, boom. Doesn't even show anything. Doesn't show contact ever. It redirects right away. And that's what I mean. All right. So stuff in the head is great because it happens before the page loads, before anything loads. We can redirect you to somewhere else, right? If I want to kill a page, a good example of this, the client says to you, we have a page and we don't want users to get there anymore. Can you turn that page off? But we still got some important information there, right? We want to redirect them to the new page. We want them to still use the same link, right? Whatever that link is. You're like, no problem. You put a piece of code inside the head and it redirects them at the head to another page. You don't even need any content in there if you don't want to after, because all that content is ignored, right? All right, guys, that is the in-class exercise for today. I'm going to go over the stuff. Let's put this up on GitHub. And there's one piece that you have to do on your own, and there's also a bonus. Added auth guard to site and contact list. That's really long. It's going to complain. Okay. Let's take a look at the stuff that I've got for you guys. I feel like it's challenge week. All right, here we go. It's in-class exercise. So version control is yours. Site structure, data folder, and users.json. Okay, we talked about that. Site structure and functionality, users.js file, and the user class. We talked about that. Site structure, authguard.js. We just did that, right? Login page errors and CSS layout adjustment. That was me giving you marks because I made mistakes. 0.25%. Login functionality, 0.25%. Live site, right? 0.5%. Make it work now, live, and tell me if there's errors. And the last one is a little bonus, right? Which is show the contact list button only when the user's logged in. So in other words, go back to here. This is your bonus for an extra 0.25% this time around. If I go to the contact us page, it always shows up, whether I'm logged in or not. I don't want this button showing up unless I'm logged in. Make it work as a bonus. It's yours to do. Okay? And that's it for me today. Any questions?
With the live site, you said there might be trouble.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Might be troubles because you're doing the asynchronous nature of JavaScript. You're putting it up on GitHub pages. You're expecting things to work the exact same way. There could be troubles. I'm expecting you to have some trouble, potentially. Maybe. Okay, let me know. All right? And I'm telling you this because, guys, we're gonna do more of this stuff. There's gonna be more and more trouble. Next week, let me talk about some stuff, some admin things before we leave because it's important. So again, reminder, ICE 6, this one right now that I gave you the lab report on, is due tomorrow at midnight with your video and everything. Test 2, if you haven't finished it, please do it. That's the 18th reminder. Please do it again, right? And you have 2 attempts. Lab 2 next Sunday. And next week, let's talk about next week, right? Next week, it's Family Day on Monday. Hopefully you guys will enjoy that. Some people will, some people won't, because you have lots of work to do, you said. But we're actually going to convert our entire website to a single page application, which means instead of having index.html, about HTML, and all those kind of things, we're going to have one page. And we're going to inject everything into it. Okay, remember the whole AJAX being a beast thing? I want you to think of that. So everything that's going to be injected in there, how that is going to affect our code, right? In the order of execution that we're expecting right now in our app.js is not going to be the same, potentially, right? All right, can't wait to do that with you guys. That's next week on Wednesday, right? So looking forward to that. That's it for me. I'm going to stop recording on YouTube. Any questions here before we go? All right, guys.
Can't get the live site to work properly.
That's why I gave you the bonus. So you get close. You'll get close to getting it. If you get the bonus, this is easier than sometimes getting the live site. Hopefully you'll all get the bonus and the live site, and you'll get the extra bonus, right? So that's what I want. And I hope you do that. I hope all of you guys get that. All right. And thank you very much, guys, for the people online. Thank you. We'll talk soon.